How would you like to travel more? My guest today, Marie DiGiovanna, decided in her early 50s to become home free, as she likes to put it, and travel around the world while she works. Tune in to today's episode where we explore how she does it. Hello, dreamers. Welcome to the Late Starters Club, giving you the inspiration, mindset, and tools you need to start something midlife and beyond. Remember, it's never too late to follow your dreams. Hey, Late Starters. It's your host, Andrea Vall, and I am joined today with my longtime friend, Marie DiGiovanna. She is a leadership expert, international speaker, and executive coach, and a lot of other things. But I'll just say, welcome, Marie, first of all.
Thank you. It's great to see you and to be here.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys, this is kind of fun. This little fun little side note is she is actually in my house. So we are recording this separately, but I knew I wanted to have her on the show because she does so many amazing things. And also, I just am going to give your book a quick plug. Stop talking, start asking. And it's 27 questions to shift the culture of your organization. So Jean Marie is awesome. And she also does an amazing thing in her travel. She travels all over the world. And that's what we're going to dive a little bit deeper into today. But so, yeah, very cool. So let's talk about your unique lifestyle that you
Mhm.
have. So you are this speaker, you go all over the world speaking, you're training corporations in all parts of the world too. In fact, this morning you were just on with Asia, right? What with your
Mhm.
client in Asia, but you also have this lifestyle where you live in different parts of the world during different parts of the year. So let's unpack that a little bit and talk about the way you do that. And first of all, I want to talk about the whole term digital nomad because that is something that you don't necessarily associate yourself with as a term. And I want to talk about that because it's a very common term. Probably you get a lot of people who call you that, but
Yeah. Yeah.
you don't necessarily. Why don't you like that term? And what do you consider yourself instead?
Great question. Digital nomad has been around for a long time, and typically it's been associated with tech people, like people who have remote jobs that they're working at a company, but they may not be working at a company, but they're typically tech oriented. Whereas now that's expanded out to people that are coaches and people that can literally work remotely. And that kind of
Mhm.
turns into everyone after COVID. But it's funny because I never resonated with that term because most of my work had always been in person. And so, when I say digital and even nomad, there's this, I don't know, association with nomad, like we're just wanderers that just flitter to here and there. And it's like, yeah, I enjoy not knowing where I might be living in a few months, but it doesn't mean I'm not intentional. So
Mhm.
I created a term called mobile businesswoman. So that's what
Mhm.
I call myself now.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that too because I think that sometimes people may not take it as seriously because you do very intentionally pick your spots, pick where you're going to be. You're focused on delivering your client work from a place that it's going to be beneficial, that you're going to have good Wi-Fi and good internet speed, or you're going to even meet up with clients or people in person. So I love that you're intentional about that as well. Yeah. So here's the kind of interesting thing, and I tell people about this, and people like think it's really wild, but you do not have
Mhm.
a full-time house or a full-time apartment that you
Yeah.
have as a place, but you do have several kind of home bases, I think.
When people go, "Oh, does that mean you're homeless?" And I said, "No, I'm home free." And they say,
Yeah.
"Oh, interesting." And no, I gave up my home about 5 years ago, a year before COVID. And I was inspired to do that out of a trip I took in Southeast Asia. And my last place there was Cambodia. And it just hit my heart in such a wild way that I never expected, which was
Mhm.
just how grateful people are there that don't have a lot. And I
Mm,
came back to my two-bedroom townhome in Boulder, and I'm going, "What do I need all this space? Do I need all this stuff?" So I gave that up. I sold almost everything that I own. So I have a couple storage units to my name, and I'm exploring now what are my specific home bases that I'd
mhm,
like to have because I travel is an important part of my life. And to stay in one place the whole year feels almost like it doesn't serve my own creativity.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I love that because you do have these places you come back to. You come back to Colorado and you've got a community here and you've got people that you're connected with and plug into and reconnect with. And then you've got East Coast and West
Yeah.
Coast. You've got like several places that you visit often and for long periods of time where you're able to have that community, but then you get to choose and see where else you might want to go in the world. And I think that's just so exciting. That is like what I wanna do too. Yeah, and so talk about some of the challenges that you've seen and
Mm.
had with this, because I know it's not always easy.
Yeah, it is funny. I'm glad you asked that because it can sound so glamorous from the
Mhm.
outside, but like anything, it's I will say this, the first place I went was Costa Rica, and it was the first time I actually gave up my home. Like there
Mhm.
it was the first time after about a week when you feel like you're on vacation.
Yeah.
After that week, I remember thinking, "Oh my god, I don't have a home to go back to. Like, this
Mm.
is so weird." And it
Yeah.
brought up everything in me about what does home mean? What does security mean? What does safety
Right.
mean? And I went through almost like my own internal intense transformation around that. And some people that are in this lifestyle definitely have home bases, which obviously make it easier because you're like, oh, I always have a place I can go back to. And it's
Mhm.
not that I don't have places like that. There's always places I can go back to and have bases, but
Mhm.
it's often not my own or I'm renting or whatever it is short term. But it was really intense. And then since then, I've gotten better at just trusting, like, by the end of that Costa Rica time, and I was there for 2 months, I didn't set a time frame, I just kept going to the next place I was called to and kept staying if I didn't know where I was gonna go next, to the point where by the end of the trip, like, today is what, Monday, someone would ask me, "Well, where are you gonna go next?" And I actually wouldn't know where I was even staying the next night. Now, it's not like
Mm.
I do that all the time because now
Yeah.
it's very different, but it was an experiment for me to test, to trust
Mm.
that all is well. There's always a place to stay.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, it's been and then the other challenge is just finding really good internet for my type of work, given I'm presenting to hundreds of people over the line. And so that's a really high priority for me that helps me determine where I'm going to be as well. Yeah.
Right. And that's the good thing is that a lot of places I think now are just really conscious of that kind of thing is having good internet. One of the things that I thought was amazing is I went to Estonia and like the whole country is really wired with fiber. So they do attract a lot of people who are traveling and working at the same time because we're mobile business women as well or men. And I think that's a big thing with people attracting tourists now because they know that
Mm,
people are doing kind of hybrid things like this and
yeah.
not just there to just be on vacation.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
actually, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think when people have, there's two things I want to say. One is when people have their home and they like reference me, they're always saying like, "How's your trip to Malaysia?" And I'm thinking, "Well, it's actually not a trip. I'm working there. I'm living and
Yeah.
working in
Right.
Malaysia." Now that I might
Right.
take a vacation for a week or whatever, but and it's really hard for people to grasp because they just like, "Meh." But I will say this, I have met and reconnected with more family and friends all around the world and stayed more connected because I would go back to that location because I didn't have to go back home.
Mhm.
And that to me has been one of the most incredible, like beautiful benefits I never even thought of. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that too because you don't sometimes people aren't traveling to see you, but you can easily go and see other people because you're just a little bit more flexible in
Absolutely.
and you have to be somewhere, you might as well stay with friends or stay with family
Yeah.
and do that work, and yeah, I think that is really important to highlight, though, that it's not like your life is just one giant long vacation.
No. That would be very nice. One day it will be, but right now, no.
You're still working, you're
Yeah,
normal normal
yeah.
working, just maybe you go down to the coffee
Mhm.
shop in
Yeah.
Cambodia or whatever,
Yeah, and
so
often my client work will dictate where I go next. So
mm,
that's the cool thing too. Like I had a speaker tour in Malaysia and I went there a month earlier to connect with new
mhm.
clients. So I always take advantage of the locations I'm at to see who else is there, who am I linked in with, how can I develop more business.
Yeah, yeah. And you've gone I like too that you've, found this conference that travels around the world with people who have this type of lifestyle, and you're able to then also plan your travel around that conference and see new parts of the
Yeah.
world, like you went to South Africa, and yeah, yeah. What have been some of your favorite destinations that you have gone to that you've really enjoyed
Mm.
and
Oh
lived
yeah.
in?
So one is Croatia.
Mhm,
First time there last year and just beautiful. So much coastline, which is just amazing. So that was really special. I would say Kuala Lumpur. I was there several
mhm,
months ago and I don't part of it a lot of it's the people. That's
mhm,
just because I got to meet some of the organizations I have been partnering with hybrid online and got to meet them
mhm,
in person and just really develop a following in Asia, which I hadn't had before. And now I
mhm,
do. So
mhm,
that was an incredible trip. Um, Oh my gosh. And oh, South Africa. Cape
mhm.
Town is just, yeah, I didn't know what to expect. And that was very cool. You don't realize how long it actually takes to get there. It
Mhm.
just seems so fast
Yeah.
when you're in the
Yeah.
States. But yeah, those are the highlights, I would
Mhm.
say, off the top
Yeah.
of my head.
Yeah. I know. It's every place has its own charm and its own beauty, of course, and everything. And yeah. Talk about some of the challenges that have come up with just even planning this. Is it you talked about like early challenges. What kind of challenges have you had like more recently that have been hard to get through and overcome?
Hmm. Yeah, I think what happens, I went into this just mainly because I wanted to travel more. I wanted to see more of the world and also work from wherever I am and make that happen. I had no idea when I went into this how long I'd be doing it or
Mhm.
and it's always been a temporary thing. It's not a
Mhm.
permanent thing. And that's still
Right.
very true.
Yeah.
The biggest challenge is just acclimating. I thrive on change. So
Mhm.
this lifestyle is not for everybody, but there's sometimes I'm going through too much change at once, and
Mhm.
I've really started to learn more about, okay, if there's certain client work I have, there's certain things that really have to be stable,
Mhm.
whether it's my space, location, whatever that is, that I'm there for a certain period of time first. And so those are the things I've learned over time, and I'm finally starting to understand, like, I'm slowing down the pace at which I was traveling in terms
Mhm.
of locations, location to location.
Mhm.
And now it provides me the opportunity, one, to get situated more in a location, so then connect with more people, build a
Mhm.
community. So when I'm intentional like that, like I went to Florence for 3 months, I lived there, very intentional, and it was amazing. And I have a small community there that I can
Mhm.
always tap into. So the challenge now is finding places is just not traveling so much and instead
Mhm.
in places for 3 to 4 months. And being very intentional about that versus like, I'm gonna go here and then I wonder where I'm gonna be. So now
Mhm.
really thinking a little further out. And then eventually, like I'm already thinking about a few home bases, like where might those be and what would serve me and honor my own values and
Mhm.
passions.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. It's just it definitely is it's always evolving, right? And that's the great thing is that it's not like you can't go back to staying in one space for a long time.
Exactly.
Now this is your life. You've got to move every
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's the other thing that I think is really interesting is the way you've got your storage units here and you plan for these times to come and switch out your switch out wardrobes and try
Yeah.
travel to the next place. And so I am very glad that one of your home bases is here in Colorado because that means I get to see
Yeah.
a lot. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
So, what has been something unexpected, like an unexpected benefit that you've had from all this travel? Is it just getting to know yourself more? What's been
Yeah.
something that's
That's
come
a
out of
great
this that is
question.
great lesson that
Um,
out of
I think one of the biggest ones, and it's funny because we recently talked about this. Like, I never really shared this with clients. Yeah, I'm not
Mm,
openly like sharing, like, oh, I'm a mobile businesswoman and I travel
yeah,
to different places. But it's interesting. What most surprised me, especially in the last year or so, is when I do share it with people, how much they are like, oh my God, that's something I've always wanted to do, or
yeah,
wow, tell me more about it. And I think I was being stopped by my own perception of
mm,
thinking people think, oh, I'm this wanderer
yeah.
or also like, what are you running away from? I mean, these are
Oh,
the things that would go through my head thinking, I'm actually not running away from anything.
yeah.
No matter what issues you're dealing with, you're going to have them, whether you're in Croatia, Portugal, Cape Town. But people think, oh, she must be this or that. And so I've embraced more of my lifestyle in what I'm doing now and
Mhm.
embracing that will shift. And if it inspires people, great. If it makes people scared or nervous or they're like, I can't believe you're doing this, that's
Yeah,
not my thing. It's just whatever
right.
comes up for them.
Yeah, it's true. People do have, they're like, "Oh, I can't see how you could do that." Travel is one of my big values as well. I love travel so much, and I went to Switzerland when I was 16 on a exchange program and things like that. So it's always been a huge high value of mine. And I think some people can't wrap their head around how you can just pick up and go to another country in just like in a few weeks and decide, hey, I'm going to go to Thailand or whatever. And they think it takes a lot of planning, and it really doesn't, and I think that's an exciting thing too, and I do think that it's inspirational. I think it really does connect with a lot of people's desires to see the world, and I think it's fun when people can then share stories around that too, and I had the same kind of thing when I was in Bali for a few weeks working from there. I didn't wanna share it with my clients because I was like, "Oh, they're gonna think I'm on vacation." No, I'm working here.
Yeah, right,
Just
exactly. Your program, it's like you're
yeah.
highlighting late starters, and I'm over 50. Like this lifestyle, I
Yeah,
also thought, oh, I'm gonna just be the oldest one there, and
right.
because I'm part of a nomad community
Yeah,
called Nomad Base, and they're amazing people, and they're all ages and
yeah,
all walks of life, and it
yeah,
was so refreshing to say, oh, there's people much older, there's people much
right,
younger, and
right.
it's for everybody.
Yeah, and I love that too. So, yeah, I always sometimes forget, oh, yeah, we're talking about late stars. So you're I think that was one of the reasons wanted to interview as well. You're over 50, you're a woman traveling alone sometimes. Has there been any fear about safety? Because sometimes people do talk to me about that. "Oh, you're gonna go
Mm.
there alone?" And I'm like,
Mm,
"Yeah." And
yeah.
have you had any safety concerns or wondering about
Mm.
any of that?
I personally, I haven't. I'm very conscious about places I
Mhm,
choose to go. I look into
mhm,
things like that. Oftentimes, I may know another person. It might only just be one person, or I
mm,
actually connect on a Facebook group and connect with people
yeah,
before I get there. Like anything, it's about using your intuition, like any city or town that you're in. If you start to feel uncomfortable, you're going to do something different. I'm blessed that I do also have a very strong intention that I am protected, supported. Like I don't go around naive, but yeah, it's been great.
yeah, yeah, that's good, and I like that you kind of balance your travel with connecting with people and meeting up with people, and then also time to recharge alone. You
Yeah.
are big into beaches and you like to go to a space with water and really recharge while you're still working. And I think that's so awesome too.
Yeah. I would
Yeah.
say that actually goes back to one of the challenges too, is like balancing. I thought I could do half day morning work, half day tool around. And it's now what I realize is it's better for me to just like dedicate several days for work and several days for whatever else I'm doing or want to
Right.
tool around or meet people or whatever. But it's just finding your own rhythm
Yeah.
that works.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think that's a good message too, because I definitely had that sort of same thing where I prefer to have work with a little bit of tooling around time and then back to work. So that's my
Yeah.
rhythm. So when I'm out traveling, because I like to check in almost every day. So you just, yeah,
Mhm.
find the thing that works for you. So that's definitely a good message as well.
Yeah.
So I know that a lot of people would like to think of ways to travel. What are some of your best travel tips for finding good places to stay, good
Mhm.
airline travel? Do you have some good tips on how to save money while traveling?
Well, yeah. Um, God, I'm not like the travel guru. It's
Yeah.
really funny because people go, "Oh, you must have a million miles." I'm like, I don't actually travel that often
Yeah.
because I stay at places for periods of
Right.
time. I look a lot on Google Flights just to see what are the best times to travel to certain locations or what are the
Mhm.
best permutations. I'm on obviously Airbnb, but when I look at longer term places to stay, I actually will find maybe a place on Airbnb and then reach out to the host and say, what do you have if I want to stay for a month or two? And then you can also find short term housing on Facebook Marketplace, believe it or
Mhm.
not, I've found, and other shorter term sites. There's also house sitting and pet sitting, right? Like I miss having my pet. Like I used to
Mhm.
have a cat and so I get that's a fun alternative thing for me to do every 3 or 4 months or so where I can be with a pet and
Mhm.
take care of that pet and be in, and take care of someone's home the home that I'm in, and also explore a new location as a way of
Mhm.
doing that. I'm also part of Trusted House Sitters, and yeah, so I don't have a ton of hacks, I'm sure,
Yeah.
because I don't like I said, I don't travel all the time, but yeah.
Right. And I think that's a good message too, is that I think some people think that it has to be super expensive. But
Mhm,
when you have you stay in a place that maybe is a little better value, like maybe certain countries are a little better
mhm,
value, but then you combine it with staying with relatives or the house sitting or things like that, and you're not paying for a house or rent or mortgage. That's huge. You're not necessarily just like shelling out tons of money for this type of lifestyle. You can
yeah,
still make it really affordable and
yeah.
all with
I
yes.
I will say a lot of people think I save so much money by doing this lifestyle, but actually, the reality is I spend about the same amount. It
Mhm.
evens out. If I
Yeah.
had one place for a whole year that I rented,
Right.
I'm not saving a ton of money unless I'm really going to some remote places that are much cheaper to live.
Right.
But overall, because I thought that would be the case a lot.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh, great. This lifestyle will save me so then I'm like, well, it's not always the case, especially after COVID,
Yeah.
but
Right,
still, it's
right. Well,
not
has
like
gone up. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, but it's not like it's also like like you have to save up $100,000 in
No,
order to
mm-mm,
do this
not at
type
all.
of thing. So,
No.
yeah, that's definitely, I think, a good message too, is it could just be exactly even with where you're at. So
Mhm.
this is awesome. I always feel like these half-hour interviews go so quickly, but I also want to check in. It's my one of my favorite things to do is find out what your favorite inspirational saying or quote is because I'm such a quote junkie. So share with us a favorite quote or inspirational saying you like.
Sure. So my favorite is by Howard Thurman, and it's a much longer little story or quote, but I'll share the piece that I really love because it talks about what success means. And it's if you can make one person breathe easier and that kind of thing. So at the tail end of the quote, it says, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive and go do that, because what the world needs is people who have come alive.
Mm.
And
I love that quote so much. I love that quote so much. And it's so interesting because one thing I've loved in a year of doing these interviews, I've hardly had anyone, I don't even think that anyone has shared that quote with us before, but that's one of my favorite favorites. So
Mm.
I love that. So yay. Awesome. It's been so fun. Share where people can find you on your website. And we'll definitely have all these links in the show notes, but where can people connect with you?
Yeah, just go to jeanmariespeaks.com and you can find everything there, and also on
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
Yeah, I would definitely another thing that we didn't even touch on is your whole LinkedIn training you have. That is amazing. She went to the LinkedIn headquarters and did training there to have on their platform, but she also has almost 60,000 followers on LinkedIn, or is it yeah, it's yeah,
Yeah,
just shy. I'm sure by
I know.
the time this
Almost
may be
60,000.
yeah. And she has the most amazing things that she posts on LinkedIn. So we'll have her LinkedIn connection. I highly recommend you go and connect with her. She's just such an inspiration on LinkedIn and everything you do. So awesome. Thank you so much, Jean Marie, for coming on Late Starters Club.
Very welcome. Pleasure.
Hope that was helpful, and make sure you grab the free guide, Top Tools for Late Starters, on the website at latestartersclub.com. And let's turn dreaming into doing.